Hello and welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Molero.
And we are
the FAIRtax Guys.
And if you missed our last episode, huge announcement. I'll let you do it this one, son, since I did it last week.
Well, we are pleased to report that the people over at FAIRtax Nation, which is another national group that promotes the FAIRtax, they have invited Bob and I, the FAIRtax Guys, to broadcast live and in person from CPAC. They're going to be at CPAC, which is one of the premier political events of the year. Of course, that stands for Conservative Political Action Committee, and their conference is next month in February. February what? 21st?
February 21st through 24th, and I'm already getting cold thinking about going up there at that time of year.
Yes, poor Bob, the Florida boy.
Us Florida guys don't take that cold weather too well.
Yeah,
but for this, it'll be worth it.
Yeah, as he gets closer to the Mason-Dixon line, he starts shivering and getting goosebumps. But anyways, we'll take care of him. We'll get a sweater with some FAIRtax logos on it.
Yeah, you Yankees are used to this, but I'm not.
Yeah, believe me, where my kids grew up in northern New York, well, we won't go into that now, but it was cold.
But again,
anyways,
make your plans to check out the FAIRtax Guys. We will be broadcasting live FTPR on Spreaker.
Yep.
And we will also be doing some Facebook Live events from up there as well, with details to follow on the FAIRtax Guys Facebook page. This is just super exciting, and we thank Marilyn for the chance to come up there and do this as a guest of FAIRtax Nation. And hopefully it'll be the first of many years we can do this.
No. We want the FAIRtax passed very quickly. We don't want to do this for many years.
I don't trust the politicians to do it very quickly. Okay, but yeah, you're right about that. We'd like to make this just a one-time shot and no longer necessary after this year.
Yes, we're going to have such an impact that people are going to rush to. Anyways, we're excited about the opportunity. It is another way to get the word out on the FAIRtax, and that's what Bob and I are all about. That's what the FAIRtax Guys do.
And speaking of Facebook Live,
yes,
we have our January date now.
That's right, January 18th. It's a Thursday, January 18th at 8:00. Facebook Live. Be there or be square.
Should I bring my Rubik's Cubes again?
Oh, yeah, except I got an even better one.
Okay.
Yep. That I have to go. I found one. I think I have to go to Toys R Us. I actually found a Rubik's Cube that only has two on a side. Well, I said four. Yeah,
I've seen the 2x2
2x2.
cube. Yeah, I've seen the 2x2
That's
cube.
for really little kids. What a great! If you don't know what we're talking about, folks, it's kind of an inside joke. But at the last Facebook Live, Bob had a great prop to show the difference between the current income tax.
My 9x9 Rubik's Cube with the current income tax all scrambled up.
And one of the simplest Rubik's Cube, 3 on a side.
Yes.
And so it was a great example.
And I just got me a new 8x8, so, for what that's worth. But anyhow, I'll bring a Rubik's Cubes to the next Facebook Live.
Yeah. So January 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Facebook Live. You go to the FAIRtax official Facebook page, and we'll have more stuff. We'll have stuff on our Facebook Live, our Facebook page about it. But that'll be another way for you. It's interactive, folks. So you can put in your own questions and comments, and we do our very best to respond to them. Sometimes we get real busy, but
and if you'd like to cheat and get in a question or comment ahead of time, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com is the way you can do that.
Yep, anytime. Okay. So,
all right. Well, let's move on today here because this is something that I have just always thought was incredibly funny. You talk about the income tax. It is as fraudulent as it can be with all the underreporting of income, overreporting of credits and deductions, the evasion from 6 ways from Sunday about that. And I just have to laugh every time I hear somebody, and I have heard this a lot, say, well, the fair tax is a bad idea because people are going to try to evade it. The fair tax is a bad idea because it will set up an underground economy. That people will start, acting like their businesses because business-to-business transactions under the fair tax aren't taxed, and there'll be all these fake businesses spring up so folks can evade the fair tax. And you just have to laugh at them because those are the same people that have no problem whatsoever with a multi-billion-dollar fraud problem with the income tax. But we do want to address, some of these concerns about what fraud that may happen under the fair tax. Again, with the caveat, it will be much, much, much less than with the income tax.
Absolutely. And the people who wrote the fair tax bill, they anticipated this. All right, because first off, 45 of the 50 states have a state sales tax. They've been doing this for a long time. They've run up against this. They know what to look for. So the people who wrote the fair tax bill, all they had to do was refer to some of these state taxing authorities. Okay, what problems do you run into? What do you think we should do here? So they've written some stuff into the bill, and we're obviously not going to read the bill because we don't want to put everybody asleep. But
all right, let me toss a question at you here.
Sure.
It says, as we mentioned, since business-to-business purchases are not taxable under the fair tax, how does the fair tax keep individuals from pretending to be a business or pretending to have a business so they can buy things for themselves tax-free?
Yeah, and both Bob and I have heard this question before. Oh, I'll just set myself up as a business. What does that mean?
Good luck.
What does that mean when you're going to set yourself up as a business? You just hang a shingle out front and voila, you're a business? No, it's not that simple.
You better have a business license or the city will come put you out of business.
Yeah. So the business has to be a registered seller. You have to register with the state sales tax authority because remember, it's going to be the states that collect the fair tax from the individual vendors. They're already doing that in 45 of the 50 states. Because there's already 45 states that have a sales tax. The vendor collects it. They set up, and by the way, I'll give you my own experience with this. Some years ago, my wife and I had a truck leasing business. Well, the lease fees we collected were taxable, under the laws of Florida. We had to pay Florida sales tax. So you go to the bank, and we were a registered business. We had an identification number. We go to the bank, said we have to set up a tax account. And then each month when we collected the lease fees, we calculate the percentage. It's very simple to do. You take the gross amount, multiply it by 0.06 or whatever it is, and you put that amount in this account in the bank, and then you send a report to the state taxing authority, and they collect the money. It's very simple. Very simple.
They electronically get it right out of your...
Yeah.
You just put it in the bank account and that's it. They come get it.
Yeah. So it's not a big deal. But you have to be set up as a registered business. You just can't be, Joe Schmo who puts a sign out in front of his house and suddenly magically becomes a business and starts collecting money. It's not that simple.
What kind of reports and certifications are required from a business that are not required of an individual? I mean... You got to have a business license to start with. That's for sure.
Exactly. And you have tax certificates. So if you are a registered business and you are buying stuff for your business, like a new computer or whatever, copy machine, fax machine, and so forth for your business, then you can use your business certificate to buy that thing tax-free under the fair tax. Because remember, as Bob already said, under the fair tax, business-to-business purchases will not be subject to the fair tax because that just rolls those costs into the cost of the product, and that's the problem we have now.
Yeah, the end consumer pays all that anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Anytime that there's a tax liability put on a business, be it General Motors, ExxonMobil, or your little truck leasing company, doesn't matter what the size of the business is, that becomes just a cost of doing business. Mm-hmm. Which is rolled on to the final consumer, or in the case of a wholesaler, rolled on to their customers. Just whoever their customers will pay that.
Yep.
And on top of the tax liability, we've mentioned this, are huge, huge compliance costs.
Yeah.
All of which goes away with the fair tax, by the way.
Yep.
All right. You may continue down the railroad track that you're working on.
The person that says, well, somebody will just set themselves up as a business, that's kind of naive because it's just not that simple. I mean, you just don't, with a stroke of a pen, set yourself up as a business. You have to register with the state if you're going to be selling stuff and collecting tax, or if you're going to try to be avoiding the tax. And once you set yourself up as a business, you can be audited, by the state taxing authority. And you don't want to step out of line with these folks. For one thing, it's going to be 50 different states doing the auditing, or at least 45. I'm not sure about those other 5 states. They could have a neighboring state collect the tax for them, whatever. But you're going to have individual states doing the auditing and the watchdogging on this stuff.
Yeah, but a business would have to incorporate with the state.
Yeah, that's right.
So you'd have to have some kind of incorporation as well. You'd have to have your business licenses. There's lots of things that businesses have to have.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to conduct business without a license, they will shut you down. Lots of ways that a scam or a sham business on the side gets shut down.
Yeah, and if we're talking about a kid who's going out raking leaves, or up north at this time going out shoveling snow,
what's that? We Florida guys don't know what that is.
Yeah, Bob is really worried about the CPAC thing and snow. But anyways, I
ain't driving in it, I'll tell you that.
We're not worried about kids raking leaves or shoveling snow, earning a few bucks on the side. This is not something that's going to break the bank.
But I have seen on the news kids' lemonade stands shut down for not having a business license.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, talk about overthrow.
So they can. There are ways to get folks that are trying to pretend to be a business that aren't. So
you have to be a bona fide business in order to make the sales and collect the sales tax, and you have to register with the state, and you have to get a sales tax number. And then if you're playing fast and loose with the tax laws, I don't want to be nearby when the state taxing authority comes after you, because they don't mess around. All right.
Now, this is something we haven't mentioned a whole lot here on FairTax Power Radio, but the FairTax legislation does provide for a number of fines and penalties for noncompliance, and authorize a mechanism for reporting tax cheats.
That's right.
So there are multiple ways that you're going to get caught if you're trying to evade the fair tax.
So for somebody that just says, well, I'll set myself up as a business and avoid the tax, that's very naive, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to be that simple. And if you try that and you're caught, you're not going to like the results, believe me. Plus, you've got, currently with the federal income tax, we've got 140 million taxpayers. How do we audit 140 million taxpayers, Bob?
You don't.
No, you don't. You can't do that. However, under the fair tax, since it's a sales tax, it's 50 different states that are taking care of the vendors in each one of their states. And like I've said before, the states know how to do this. They know how to look for fraud. So if you try to defraud the state sales tax, it's not like you're going to get away with it from the feds, because it is going to be the states that collect it. And the states will come down on you if you try to play fast and loose with these folks. You don't want to do that.
Yes, and right quickly, let's give credit to Karen Walby for coming up with this stuff that we're talking about here right now.
Dr. Karen Walby is a member of the board of directors for the National Group, Americans for Fair Taxation, and we are lucky here in Florida to have her a member of the board of the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association.
And economics is her wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. She is a numbers lady, and I'm pretty sure that what I'm basing this episode on, I'm pretty sure she wrote all this. She also said that the fair tax law, provides for a mechanism for reporting tax cheats. Mm-hmm. So if you know of a vendor or somebody who thinks they're a vendor and is not sending in their sales tax, you can report them. And then they'll get a little visit. And they won't like it. So... All right.
Well, somebody pretending to be a business, this is kind of along the same lines. What if you set up a fake family business in order to buy things for your family members tax-free?
Yeah. Well, again, the fair tax has a specific provision to prevent this, okay? It doesn't prohibit businesses. I mean, if a business wants to give away gifts or a reward of some kind, and it could be, money, it could be gifts, a physical item or whatever. Yeah, they can do that. But under the fair tax law, when the business gives away either property or services and it's converted from business use to personal use, it's taxable. I mean, just think about it. We're talking about the fair tax, which the final consumer buys. Well, this is the same thing. If you're trying to set up a sham business for the purpose of giving away gifts so that they can be tax-free, they're still required to pay the taxes on it. And if that doesn't happen, somebody's going to get their tookie in the squisher, Mm-hmm. Yep. So, yeah, and the fair tax law provides for that. according to this document we got from Dr. Walby. Okay. So that's not going to work either. And you know what? Somebody may get away with this. I mean, they might do it on a really low-level business, and they may fly under the radar. But is that going to affect us nationally? Is that going to ruin the system?
Mm-mm.
I mean, are we going to say, oh, well, we can't do the fair tax because this Joe Schmo up in Wyoming might avoid it?
Well, where there's a will, there's a way. There is going to be some evasion of just about any tax system you can come up with. But we've got to keep this in proper perspective and compare the evasion and the cheating that's going to go on under the fair tax, and there will be some, we'll admit that. Compare that to what goes on with the income tax. And it's like the Titanic in a 10-foot rowboat.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
much difference in what it is. And
2017, the evasion of the income tax was $693 billion. 21% of people taxes were not paid. 21%.
Yeah, try coming up with that kind of money, setting up fake businesses.
Yeah,
not going to happen.
And keep in mind, 90% of the purchases in this country are done at 500 different stores. I mean, we got 20 million businesses across the country. This is a big country, 320-something million people, 20 million businesses, all right? 90% of the purchases are done at big stores like Walmart, Target, Sears, Myers up in the Midwest and so forth, Publix, Winn-Dixie.
You keep the big guys in line, and what little fraud is there on the fringes is negligible compared to the billions of dollars that's evaded under the income tax. It's insane.
Yeah, because you're not going to go to one of those big stores and walk out with a big screen TV and say, oh, by the way, here's my tax number. I don't want to pay the sales tax on that. They're going to scrutinize that. And plus, if you do have a tax number and you do that, then there is a way for the state sales tax department to follow up on that purchase.
Yeah, we've noticed a lot of times here on FAIRtax Power Radio that one of the beauties of the fair tax is that it is anonymous.
Yeah.
If you, as a private individual, go up, you buy something at Walmart or Target or Kmart or wherever you get something from, and you charge you the fair tax, you pay it, it goes in the cash register, they know that the tax was paid, they don't know who did it.
Yeah.
If you walk up there and want to buy a big screen TV and you're using a particular business's tax number,
tax certificate,
then the anonymity goes away.
That's right.
They don't know who you are, but they know that this particular business purchased this item. And so if I were to take my church's tax exempt number, for example, and go out to Walmart and buy a lot of ammunition, or buy a lot of, buy a new bowling ball. I guess they have bowling balls at Walmart. I've seen those. But whatever, and buy a lot of stuff that's not things that a church would normally buy.
Yeah.
I might get away with it for a little while. But the state will eventually notice, because they do have to record, when there's a tax-free transaction, who, made it and what did they buy.
That's
so
right.
They can tell that this particular business or a church or whatever is buying ammo, it's buying guns, it's buying big screen TVs, it's buying all sorts of stuff that a church normally wouldn't buy, and that will get noticed, especially because you're not auditing 140 different places. The number of people that are getting looked at, much smaller. Chances of getting caught doing something like that under the fair tax are astronomically larger than they are with the income tax.
And I think the vendors are going to be very careful. If somebody claims that this is a tax-free purchase, okay, show me your your registered business, your tax certificate. Okay, They record that just like Bob said. That lets the vendor off the hook. They've done what they're supposed to do. They can't be the investigator. Oh, you're really using this for your business? No, they're not going to do that, okay? But they've got the number. They've done what they have to. Now, if the state sales taxing comes in there and says, what's this purchase here? Well, they gave me this number. Okay, now they know who to go to talk to. That lets the vendor off the hook. So the vendor is going to be very judicious about getting that tax number. So again, it's naive to think that somebody is just going to set up a business just by waving a magic business wand, and they're going to avoid paying the tax, the fair tax like that. It's not that simple, all right?
Okay, I got time to toss out one more question for you. What if I set up a business in order to give huge employee discounts?
Yeah. Well, what are huge, like 80%? Well,
yeah, that'd qualify.
Yeah. Well, it just so happens that written into the fair tax bill Under the fair tax, employer provided discounts over 20% are taxable. So you can give employee discounts, and that's not uncommon. I mean, a lot of companies do that. They give their own employees a certain discount. But if it's over 20%, the amount over 20% will be subject to the fair tax. And again, that will have to be, the vendor will record that because the vendor doesn't want to get in trouble with the state taxing authorities, state sales tax. So they will record that anytime an employee makes a purchase. So over 20%, the employee is responsible for paying the fair tax above 20%.
So bottom line here, if you're one of these folks that says, ooh, if the system is fraud prone, it's a bad one and we shouldn't do it, then you should be attacking the income tax a whole lot more so than the fair tax.
Oh, yeah.
We'll admit there will be some fraud and deception under the fair tax, but it will be minuscule. Again, Titanic versus a 10-foot rowboat.
Yeah,
is the size differential between the fraud under the fair tax and fraud under the income tax. It's insane to think that the fair tax should not happen because it's going to be evaded. Any tax is going to be evaded to some degree, but there is the grand champion of tax evasion is the income tax that we've got now. One of the huge reasons we need to get rid of it.
Yeah, and that evasion study that was completed last spring, which, by the way, again, you can find it. You go to fairtax.org, scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there is a link to a PDF with the summary. Unless you want to read the entire report, if you're really into, like our friend in Colorado, all right, he did read the evasion report.
Yes.
But he can understand it. He's a CPA.
Yes.
But there is I think a 6-page summary, and that tells you all you need to know. The evasion of the current income tax is a huge problem. It's like 1 out of every 5 people is not paying the taxes, and guess who makes up for it? The other 4 of us. Mm-hmm. We have to make up for that shortfall, and we're talking about evasion where people are purposely evading the tax either by not reporting income or over-reporting deductions and exemptions, okay? We're not talking about legal avoidance maneuvers, all right? Like a legal avoidance maneuver would be taking the standard deduction. There's nothing wrong with that. You should take the standard deduction. You're foolish if you don't, okay? If there's a legal way to reduce your tax burden, you should do it. But if you're illegally evading taxes by not reporting income or over-reporting deductions and exemptions, you're breaking the law. And if you're caught, but how easy is it to catch people doing that with 140 million tax filers?
Well, you can get away with it under the income tax a whole lot more likely than you can under the fair tax.
And that's why the income tax is just a much more bullet-ridden, you might say. It's like Swiss cheese. It's so full of holes of evasion. It's terrible. So don't fall for this. This guy over here might evade the fair tax, and therefore we can't do it. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. The fair tax is an excellent tax plan. It has over $20 million worth of research behind it. This fraud thing is just part of it. Okay. It has been thoroughly researched and studied, and it is far superior. One of the reasons it's superior is because it's so darn simple. It's a sales tax. Mm-hmm. How does it get any simpler than that? There's no IRS. There's no withholding from your paycheck. There's no and that by the way, that payroll withholding, the most regressive tax we have in this country. Even the working poor cannot reduce that payroll tax amount. That is a fixed amount, and everybody, whether you make $20,000 a year or you make $120,000 a year, the payroll deduction tax is fixed.
Yep. And you still got to feed the government before you feed your family.
Yeah,
That's just wrong.
Yep,
Whatever.
That's wrong.
Okay,
So
we're running out of time here real quick. Let me remind everybody again to our Facebook Live coming up on January the 18th, 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yep.
And then look for us from CPAC. Oh, I'm still excited about that.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
like
good.
the cold weather, but I'm excited about going up there. We'll be on the air live on Spreaker with our FAIRtax Power Radio. And we'll also be doing Facebook Live from up there at various different places. So keep an eye on that for you. And, send me a cup of hot chocolate if you would. We can do that.
Yeah, Bob and I were emailing about how we're going to get up there. Bob is in favor of taking a flight up there.
Actually, I want to go up on the auto train. But that's just not
that's
not financially viable.
I told him I just got brand new tires on the car, and I've been dying to try it out in the snow.
Well, good.
He didn't like that idea.
Meet me at the airport. we'll figure out how we're going to get up there. But
our opportunity at CPAC is one in a lifetime. We're very happy about this. And again, we want to thank Marilyn Rickard at FAIRtax Nation. FAIRtax Nation is another group. It's a national group that's promoting the fair tax. Take a look. They have a website and a Facebook page, okay? So take a look at them. There are lots of ways to promote the fair tax, folks, and we need your help on every corner of it.
Amen. I tell you what, and again, the new thing with Ebates. Let's mention that again real quick.
Yep. This is a new way to support the Americans for Fair Taxation. You probably have heard of Ebates. I know they have ads on TV. I see them frequently. Well, now, and we're going to get into more detail on this. Bob and I are just getting trained on this now. I mean, as of last night. You can join Ebates for free, although it's also, if somebody refers you, you get a $10 gift certificate, and the referee,
in your account or whatever,
the referrer gets a $15. Anyways, so email us at thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, and we'll try to set up some kind of a referral system. And then you get on there, and there's a way to designate that your refunds, your rebates, go to AFFT. This is a great way to provide some funding for the AFFT. We did have this system called FairtaxRewards.com. Something happened to that. I never got an answer. It just went away. It just stopped working. This Ebates has been around for a while. I think it's more stable, and I think it's going to provide more income for the AFFT. And if we're going to do some national ads and so forth and really get people's attention, we're going to have to get some money in the coffers of the AFFT.
That's a good way to do it without actually taking it out of your wallet and sending it in. So we do appreciate that as well.
So we encourage you to do that through Ebates.
And, of course, we always encourage you to go on to PopVox. Let your Congress critters know that you are not going to get away with just walking away from tax reform. Now, you think you've done it, you've checked the box, and you've gone on. We will stay on you. We will make sure that you will not do that. Mm-hmm. We will make sure that you get the fair tax. We will make sure that happens. If you do not vote for the fair tax, we're going to stay on your case.
And PopVox is a great website, popvox.com. You have to register with your name and address, and when you put your address in, then they know what congressional district you're in. So they know who your representative and who your two senators are. And you can advocate, you can do a pro or a con on any proposed bill that's up in Congress right now. And it will send a letter to your representative and your senators. Great website.
All right. So contact us, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. Watch for our Facebook Live on January the 18th at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Watch for us from CPAC, both on Spreaker, on the radio, and on Facebook Live as well. And just tell all your friends and family, hey, watch these guys. They know what they're talking about.
CPAC is February next month, starting on the 21st.
Amen. Well, that's going to just about wrap it up for this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
We are the FAIRtax Guys. Again, reminding you that the fair tax is America's big solution, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
Fair tax is coming. Don't send in the